Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're back again with yet a bit different top 10 list. This top 10 is going to be all about top 10 champions I find most fun to be used in Marvel Concept Champions. Now quite often we don't really focus on it. We tend to forget that this in fact is a game we're meant to enjoy, and when we focus on our rank ups especially, a large aspect of it is dedicated to who we find most useful, who we're gonna kind of like save most potions out of, or who's going to help us clear most content. But occasionally there is absolutely nothing wrong in taking this mobile video game for exactly what it is, a video game that's intended to be fun. And so I made my own top 10 list, which champions I enjoy playing most. Now, first things first, this is a subjective list, obviously. I can completely understand that other people will find different things fun and engaging as opposed to what I do. Therefore, there is pretty much no point in kind of trying to dispute the list this time. Like every time I post a list of top 10 or top 5 or whatever, there's always, no, that's placed wrong, this had to be in there, or whatever. No, but this is my list, my top 10 list. You guys get no say in it. You are still free and welcome to comment on what you find extremely fun and engaging in the game, and how do you find like most enjoyment in playing the game casually. However, I will start with my top 10 list, and the first champions that I placed at the 10th spot, I actually made it kind of like split even in between 3 different champions, and that is OG Thor and Luke Cage. Where's Luke Cage? Where are my science dudes? He has to be somewhere up here. There we go. So Luke Cage and OG Hulk as well. Just because of their high chance on stun on level 1 attacks. And quite often, I just like to live dangerously. I basically get myself to nearly 2 bars of power, and then I try to stun lock opponents. Now, all of 3 of these champions, and I'm sure there are some more, have a high chance to stun opponents for a fairly long time on their level 1 attacks. And that is what I do. I just drop that level 1, even if it pushes them to 3 bars of power, and I keep smacking at them. And I try to get to my next level 1, stun them again. Obviously, if stun fails, I get smacked. However, at the same time, there's something really enjoyable about that risk factor that your stuns might not proc kind of thing. And you know, if they don't, you're more than likely gonna need that level 3 attack. And obviously you can't do it for like entire quest, but for quite a few fights I just generally like to kind of like go Hakuna Matata, que sera sera. What will happen will be, let's try and stun lock them and finish the fight that way. And it works for a amount of time, obviously, until it doesn't, but it's fun nonetheless. It's a bit exciting. You do not know when your stuns aren't gonna proc. Even though like statistically you have a fairly decent chance, obviously it's not gonna always happen. But I do find such thing fairly interesting, fun and enjoyable in the game. And then we're gonna move on to spot number 9, and spot number 9 is Taskmaster. It's because Taskmaster is a fairly interesting character to play if you kind of understand his mechanics. Basically, it's follow instructions on the screen for part of it. Obviously you can manipulate that and like kind of dictate what you want to exploit yourself at times, like when you drop your heavy attack, when you don't, like you can pause the fight kind of a bit. But yeah, no, Taskmaster is extremely fun because it's just fun to get these kind of like micro missions to place the concussions and then try to get that super concussion passive one when you reach 5, and it's kind of like a whole little bit of a mini game inside the fighting game. So it might necessarily not be like the easiest or the fastest or the smoothest way to deal with your fights, but it is interesting. It kind of like piques your interest, makes you look at the fight a bit differently, and I do enjoy it. So when I get the chance, I do like to play me some Taskmaster. I think he's quite a cool character. I wish he was a little bit better, but other than that, I still think he's underrated character overall, but he's definitely enjoyable to use if you know how to, and if you understand what's kind of like the whole end point and process of it is. Next champion I have not had the most amount of experience playing with. But recently I have started liking it more and more, and I gave this champion a very harsh review as a 4-star when he entered the contest, and largely my opinions have not changed. He is not the most versatile kind of character. The perfect block thing is cool, and the damage is awesome, and that's kind of funny because he plays weirdly. You do your parries, you do a couple hits, you siphon, like you load your heavies, you siphon your incinerates back, and then basically you finish it with a big bang, level 2 kind of thing. And it is interesting, it's quite fun. It's definitely, again, kind of like your mini ramp up, which you try to do as quickly as possible with your like heavy attacks, level 1s, and you hardly ever like actually fight with your combos with this character. And obviously there's something about the big numbers that he's able to generate that attracts everybody. There's like good crit rate, good numbers, a lot of debuffs on opponent, the perfect block chance, and you trying to nail it every time, and it is enjoyable to use this character 100%. I do like it. I wish I had him as a 5-star at least to like rank 3 level, so I could bring him in more challenges and stuff, because he's fun to play. It's definitely really great fun to play. And yeah, therefore he's in spot number 8. Spot number 7 belongs to SpiderGwen. Now, SpiderGwen is also one of those champions who's by no means a bad champion. She is a really great meta champion, and there are several ways you can play the character. However, my favorite thing with SpiderGwen is her end rate on level 1. And you're just trying to intercept the living hell out of your opponents, and I do enjoy it so much. Because with her, again, that mini game kind of is, you try to make sure your opponent never gets the special attack. So you try to be as aggressive, land as many stand-up intercepts as you can, or try and intercept them after your level 1. And that end rate procs a lot and is quite effective, and you can definitely make sure that opponent basically never gets any power from you striking them. And that's fun. I enjoy it, and it also, in my opinion, is kind of like a decently good skill training when it comes to kind of like high risk fights, because you do practice your intercepts, you do practice how to be aggressive as possible, and then with that end rate, sometimes you can win spamming your heavy attacks when they are in the corner because they don't get power when you hit them, so you can manage to land multiples of them. And it's interesting, it's fun, I enjoy it. Therefore SpiderGwen deservedly, I believe, gets spot number 7. Now moving on to spot number 6 is Ronin. Where is Ronin? Now Ronin is not the greatest champion, let's face it. I think he should have been like admittedly balanced up or whatever, but he's fun to play. His abilities are somewhat useful. He's kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none. He shrugs up Dbus, which is cool, but that's not as quick and as easy like other champions do. And then there's bleeds, but there are some champions who can bleed better and do higher damage output, and then he can gain furies or cruelties, which are nice but not that impressive to kind of like lose your head around them. And things like that. And overall, I think character was not overwhelming success in a sense of like metagame. However, when it comes to enjoyment of the game, simply taking character for what it is, somebody with a sword that moves like a ninja, cuts opponent, makes a lot of bleeds, you are kind of like put in the shoes where you do want to fulfill these kind of like mini missions, change your stances, get your cruelties up, amp up your damage, quite cool looking special attacks and all that, and you have something that is cool to play. Therefore, I think also that is pretty much a reason why people still like him, because objectively, once again, he's not the powerhouse of a character people should be investing much of their rank up resources in for his ability to deal with meta content, because unfortunately he doesn't. A lot of his damage output relies on bleed. It's quite risky way to play. It's something you do not want to do in kind of like serious matches and whatnot. However, playing with the character, and maybe not even for prolonged periods of time, for like a half an hour at a time or like couple lanes in a quest, is extremely fun. Because it can get tiresome to keep track of which stance you're in, where do you need to switch, which effect is for what stance, so on and so forth. But in kind of like small to medium doses, this guy is a great amount of fun. It's superbly interesting to play. Your damage output, which isn't amazing, is still quite up there. It's still quite good, so he still can finish fights in a reasonable quick pace, and you can still use him just for casual questing, like uncollected, where the opponents might not be the most buffed up ones, but still no kind of like weaklings. And yeah, you can just have a bit of a feel-good questing session with the guy for a while, and I do like it. Definitely enjoyable character, cool looking, fun to play. And character number 5 is, where we go, Nick Fury. So I was kind of thinking to put Nick Fury here or a bit lower, but I do have to admit that that insane bleed damage is just crazy. Now he has a downside where you have to basically kill him off in order to make him cool and fun and do that amount of damage that he's capable of doing, which is kind of annoying. That is the biggest kind of drag for me, that yeah, I just hate killing him off, especially if you're going against not all that strong opponents, for instance, because it can take a while. You just sit there while they beat up on you. But once his life model decoys away, once actual real Nick Fury steps in the field, everything drops dead, especially if they are kind of like bigger opponents, Act 6 level opponents. Then it's also extremely enjoyable, because at that point you can make yourself unblockable by throwing 2 level 1 attacks, get some inner bleeds. Those bleeds will last forever. Nick Fury is also one of my favorite guys to use in Realm of Legends for potion farming, just because it's really great amount of fun. There are champions who might do it slightly faster, even though he's still up there as one of the faster kind of like Realm of Legends clearers, especially if the opponents bleed. But he is just enjoyable to play with, being unblockable, with that a bit of a risk feeling that you're playing on low health and that crazy bleed damage, and you're also given like this opportunity to play your own minigame in there, kind of trying to make sure you have as many inner bleeds as you can get on the opponents, and then kind of like unleash your light attack bleeds, and just fun. That's all I'm gonna say. I have used that word a lot, but it's definitely an enjoyable thing to do. It's a pleasure to watch, it's a pleasure to do, and it's not even that hard of like a ramp up. It's only 2 level 1s. You go unblockable, and everything else just dies. And yeah, so I do find him extremely enjoyable character. Biggest kind of like point of critique is definitely because it's quite a lengthy process to kill him off at every like start of the quest, but you know, it is what it is. And then we have another skill champion, and that skill champion is Misaka. Misaka I do enjoy playing with in many different quests for a lot of different reasons, but the main bit is obviously he's a debuff machine. He has great damage output, places an insane amount of debuffs, and then you also can try and kind of like get your level 1s as quickly as you can to make sure you can refresh them and stack them even more up. And it's just one of those things that you find interesting to do, especially because like, yeah, these are damage over time debuffs. You just want to see those numbers go up and up and up. Also, that whole igniting the bat thing is quite interesting, because you do want to kind of test your control of the character, and then you want to make sure you can ignite the bat as smoothly as possible at the beginning of every fight. So that's another thing that makes the fight kind of enjoyable, because you know, sometimes if the AI doesn't work with you, it can be a bit tricky, it can be frustrating, and you want to kind of like make sure you're able to do it as often, as easily as possible, kind of like part of your player training. And then there are these whole bleed debuffs, incinerate debuffs, and lastly he has at level 2, which is just incredibly fun to throw an opponent's block kind of like on purpose. And that level 2 is definitely enjoyable to watch, especially when you have a lot of incinerates on opponent, then block proficiency drop even further down. And then if you do manage to shoot it off and block, you deal some really crazy good damage. In regular questing scenarios, basically everything dies of that level 2 at that point. And yeah, there's something enjoyable about you shooting special attack in the block on purpose and it's still dealing crazy amount of damage. And yeah, so therefore I definitely enjoy playing Misaka. I do try to kind of like use this character as much as I can in my own time, so on support. I wish actually I had never ranked for my 5-star. It's because my 4-star isn't ranked up, and I doubt I will because resources are scarce. And I mainly use like my rank 3 champions for like my uncollected and stuff like that, because I stream it all, and I definitely wish I could be kind of able to use this character more often on screen purposes. But yeah, great amount of fun, super large amount of enjoyment out of this guy, and yeah, just overall feel good kind of like dude to play with. Now a third character in my top list is a fairly new and a recent champion, and now this guy, inherently he doesn't really have anything all that much fun about him. However, he does have insanely goofy looks, funny walk, funny way he blocks, stupid special attacks. It's just goofy. And also those infections, it's kind of like funny to see in how many of those infections you can stack, how aggressive you can be, and then what you can and can't get away with in the fight. And you can also like obviously drop your heavies after level 2, so you kind of want to play into that scenario where you can make sure that the opponent doesn't have much power, so you can transition into heavy attack, and that's fun. And there's just quite little bits of fun that adds up. And even though like damage output definitely isn't one of the things that's so special about Warlock, everything else is. That infection plus trying to find healing opponents to make sure they kind of like constantly lose their power, plus yeah, that level 2 that has like billion hits in it, and he hits them with his own head basically on the end of a hammer is hilarious. And I like it. Quite often like I use him to quest, even if I'm kind of like trying to get the quest done quickly, but it's still fun. I just take him in, and even though the fight might take a bit longer, I just enjoy using him. At least for now anyways. Might be just because he's a new character, that is the reason why I rank him up so high. But he's also like a really, really good and useful champion, and that makes it even more kind of like great and worthwhile. And yeah, so he's definitely a great amount of fun when you go questing. And so spot number 2, so we have moved in our top 3. So we started our top 3 with Warlock, and we're gonna go to our second kind of like spot owner, and it's gonna be Captain Sparkles. Captain Sparkles again is great questing champion. Now I did not mention her into my kind of like top 10 best questing champions or top 10 fastest questing champions, because that was not the point of that list. That top 10 was kind of like top 10 champions that entered the quest, entered the first fight of the quest, and just has go, and they destroy everything really quickly. Now, Captain Marvel has that one ramp-up fight, which is kind of like a similar drawback to Nick Fury. That ramp-up fight essentially means you need to parry 12 times or take 25 hits in a block or drop, I don't know, a 7 level 1 attacks or some mixture of everything in between. So that ramp up can be an annoying fight. I don't enjoy obviously doing that, but then the fact that you carry all your binary charges over from fight to fight basically takes away all that problem and all those issues. And then starting from second fight in the quest, she's just crazy. She does stupid amount of damage, she armor breaks the opponents, she has guaranteed stun on level 2, which she often reaches with like a single combo or within 2 combos, just because she also gains power at the beginning of the fight. And then you have that guaranteed stun, and that is kind of like the second interesting thing about using Captain Marvel. Even in like AQ, I quite often do that, is kind of like you have this period where opponent is stunned and you have a decision to make. You can go for 2 heavy attacks to replenish your charges, but quite often opponent also gets close to 3 bars of power, because you can do a combo, another combo level 2, and then basically they're going to be close to 3 bars of power. And then you can choose how you want to alternate. You want to drop 1 heavy attack and do a combo, which is going to do more damage, or you want to do 2 combos to try and finish off the opponent. And for me, I always somehow, I don't know, unconsciously, I always try to end up like risking as much as I can, pushing opponents 3 bars of power and kind of like finishing them with my last combo, at least in AQ. And it's just kind of like one of those risky situations you put yourself in on purpose, just because you find yourself to be kind of like in the moment of the fight and you want a bit more adrenaline, I guess. But overall, definitely she's crazy amount of fun. She kills everything extremely fast. The 12-second indestructibility is also a great example how you can enjoy this character even more when you take her in against like freezer burn nodes or biohazard nodes and stuff like that, and you try to kill everything within 12 seconds. And yeah, she's great, enjoyable character to play, and also really good when it comes to metagame, when it comes for AQ, many different quests. She's versatile, she has great damage output, she can do a lot of things, and she's extremely enjoyable. So you're going to be having fun while you are clearing hardest content in the game. That is the reason why I want to place her in spot number 2. And the most fun character for me personally, and I try not to waste a single opportunity I get to use this guy, is quite simply Carnage. Now, there's just so much to love about this guy. From your first heavy attack of the fight, when you place a bleed on an opponent, you gain power gain. So that means you can spam your special attacks more. Both of your special 1 and special 2 are extremely savage. You can just literally feel the character rip an opponent's flesh and tear at them. That increased power gain basically makes sure you get there faster. Your specials are unblockable, plus passive power gain you get. Meanwhile, quite often means that you can just do special after special. Opponent gets back, you try to get in a stand-up intercept. It succeeds, perfect, you combo into a special. It doesn't, you just hit opponent's block for a while till you reach about power and you drop your special because you're unblockable. Now, combined with all of that, there is a crazy amount of bleeds you can place on an opponent, and the more aggressive you are, the more bleeds you can get on your opponent. And then, depending on the RNG, you can refresh them and then sometimes potentially get to like 30, 40, 50 bleeds on an opponent that do crazy damage. And to top it all off, you get all of these buffs which you have control of, which you do need to kind of be a little bit witty, how and when you want to finish your combos and when, like, and how to time yourself. But then you can basically go for more furies, cruelties, precisions, and who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love a champion that gets all of these crazy buffs, inflates his damage output greatly over time, and it's kind of perfect. Like when it comes to enjoying the game, I'm in love with this guy. I have been using him for everything I possibly can. Because let's face it, he's not the most versatile character. He doesn't have any immunities or power control and things like that. But when it comes to damage and fun, there is hardly any better champions in my opinion. And as much as I can, as much as the content allows me to use this guy, I do. And I enjoy every single fight I'm in with this guy, using him, because yeah, it's just interesting, it's fun, it's kind of a bit crazy, a bit savage. All the fights are always kind of like high speed, high tempo, and yeah, so for me personally, Carnage is pretty much the epiphany, the highest as we can go with having fun in Marvel Constant Champions. Now, don't get me wrong, there are other characters, other interactions that can be extremely enjoyable on specific nodes, like Misaka is just crazy, or Corvus is crazy on like invade nodes because it's fun to hit opponent's block, and there are different interactions that also are extremely enjoyable, is what I'm trying to say. However, by default on a clean slate, kind of random opponent versus random opponent, Carnage is just the guy for me. It's so fun, so crazy, so fast, so savage, so brutal. All the meanwhile, you're kind of like moving toward the goal of getting more and more debuffs and getting more and more buffs on yourself and hitting harder and harder. And yeah, I do like it. I definitely enjoy it. It's one of my kind of like favorite characters in the game. And hopefully one day I actually get to the position where I can just simply rank 5 him, just for the hell of it. And try to use him in as much of endgame content as I can. I am actually strongly considering taking him to rank 5 just for kind of like the sake of it, just for the fun of it, because I like the guy a lot. But yeah, that will do for today's video. So yeah guys, these are my top 10 most fun MCOC characters. And let me know which champions you find extraordinarily fun, especially if they were not mentioned on this list, because once again, these are top 10 lists. I can't mention every single champion. And second of all, this is my list. This is what I find fun. There are different people who find different things interesting. So let me know what you find interesting. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya!